Good morning or evening, explorers. I am here today with Taylor Talks number 2, which I haven't done a lot of them, and I apologize, but I'll try to get out more. I have a special guest with me today, and we are going to be talking about a book that has come out a month ago. We read it a month ago, and we have tried to record a couple of times, but we've had some bad luck in the force. So I'm going to introduce the Starboard Files. We have Johnny O here with us today. Hey, Johnny.
Hello there.
Hello there.
Yeah. Hopefully the Force is with us this time. It hasn't
The
been previously.
Force will be with us this time. I can feel it. So you do Star Wars book reviews, collecting, and more. So what, besides this book that we're working on today, what's a book that you're reading right now, Johnny?
Well, I've got a couple on the go.
Yeah.
I'm rereading Aftermath,
Oh,
the first of the trilogy,
nice.
which is fun because I haven't read it in a while. I'm about halfway through that. And then there's another book that's been on the back burner for a while. I've read about a third of it, and that's completely, it's not Star Wars, it's a book of English folk tales and stuff. So I really need to get back to that because I haven't picked it up in ages.
Just sitting, gathering dust with the bookmarks hanging out.
Yep. Yeah, making me feel guilty sitting on my bedside table.
Yeah. That's what we do, right? I have my Ahsoka book on the go right now because of the Ahsoka crazy. I've already read it, but I'm reading it again. And then, of course, I have Light of the Jedi that keeps getting pushed back because it's not as urgent, I feel like. So, yeah, we always have a couple of books on the go, right?
Yeah.
But today, what book are we focusing on?
We're going to be talking about Inquisitor, Rise of the Red Blade by Delilah S. Dawson.
Yes! Oh my gosh. This book, I don't know if you guys have seen it. It is striking the galaxy by storm. I've seen so many people have reviews for it. People are just posting on Facebook pages and fan pages that they've loved it because you want to talk about this book with somebody because it's so good. And the reason why I'm talking to you about it is because my co-hosts, Jack and Jimmy, have not read it, but they have a lot of other stuff on the go, so it's totally fine. So I need to talk to somebody. So I know you've read it because we were messaging back and forth. Oh my God, chapter 35. And you're like, wait till 37. Like, I can't remember exactly what chapters, but there were some pretty good ones out there. But before we get into it, how's your week been?
It's been okay. Just work and stuff.
Yeah, the
Nothing too
usual.
exciting to report. Yeah.
Yeah. Same. Just I've been trying to get back to get into the rhythm of getting back into work again since I had like 10 days off because I went camping and then my whole family got terribly ill with, I believe, strep throat. And we had to cut our vacation early. And then I was like home from work for like 5 days, like just so sick. And I couldn't even talk. So my voice is starting to get back to normal. But yeah, that's been my week. It's just trying to get back into the groove of things and, trying to get through all of this crazy Ahsoka-ness right now.
Yes.
Yeah, so good. Today, Inquisitor, Rise of the Red Blade. This book came out, I can't even remember what date it actually came out now. Came out July 18th. When a Jedi Order falls, an Inquisitor rises. There's a little bit of history with this character. Her name is Iskat Akaris, and that's who this book is about. It's very different from the High Republic books that we've all kind of been reading recently, where it covers like 12 Jedi or 7, and you're trying to remember everybody. This book by Delilah Dawson is very much about this one character, Iskat Akaris, who turns out to be the 13th Sister Inquisitor. But she doesn't end up taking that name like right away. Or, I don't know. It's like she wants to earn it or something. But Delilah also wrote the Phasma book, which is about Phasma, where she came from, and her home planet, and her brother, and it's like a tribe, and it's kind of crazy. She also read the Galaxy's Edge Black Spire book. And when we do get into the Easter eggs, you will hear our little finds, because obviously, if she has read those books, she's going to try and connect them in little ways, which is quite cool. And she also wrote the short story The Perfect Weapon, which is in The Force Awakens when they're in Maz Kanata's castle, and there's that lady with the big black eyebrows, and she's like sitting on that big bigger guy, and she picks up her thing, her little comm, and is like, I found the droid, so you're looking for, or whatever, the people you're looking for. So that character, that lady, is the main character of this Perfect Weapon book. So and if you have read Black Spire, you'll know that there is very strong women characters. So Delilah is really good at writing about violent, strong character women. So, which we've seen before, and she's been really good at it. So this book right away we knew was going to be good, but we didn't know how good it was going to be. Right off the bat, what did you kind of like about it? We'll try not to do spoilers right away. Halfway through, we'll switch to spoilers, so you guys are safe to listen for a little bit if you haven't read it. Sorry, Jack.
Yeah, like you said, I was, interested mainly off the bat to read it because it was Delilah S. Dawson writing it.
Yeah.
Like you said, she wrote Phasma and Black Spire Outpost, both of which, Phasma's a character that was like underutilized in the films probably, or we didn't find out as much as we thought we were going to.
Oh,
And Black
so
Spire Outpost is
underutilized.
essentially, a story about, it's a theme park tie-in, isn't it? Really,
Yeah.
when Galaxy's Edge opened, and kind of so in a way, both of those books were better than they had any right to be, almost. And I think she's
Yeah.
quite underrated as a writer. So I was definitely interested to read it from that point of view, even though I wasn't that excited about the notion of it being the main character being an Inquisitor, because I'm not generally a dark side person. Um,
Yeah.
so it didn't, that aspect of it didn't really appeal, but I didn't realise going in how much of it would be the setup and of her starting off as a Jedi and a Padawan. And it's like you said, it follows her over a long span of time. We pick her up
Yeah.
when she's a Padawan, and the Clone Wars were just about to kick off, and then you just follow her all the way through to becoming an Inquisitor, which isn't a spoiler. It's there
Yeah.
in the title, so we know
It's on
what's
the
going to happen. It's coming all the time,
it's on
so
the
you're kind of
cover.
waiting for that to happen. Yeah, but so it's like I said, a real character deep dive because of recent times. There's been all these the High Republic books with their enormous casts of characters and stuff, so it was enjoyable just
Yeah.
to focus in on this one character and really get inside their head and everything. And like I said, it goes through all these different events from right as the Clone Wars are about to break out until the Empire's ascendancy and the Inquisitors are out there doing Inquisitor type stuff. So
Yeah.
it really covers a long span, which I like as well. It's fun when we get those kind of books. It reminds you of something like Lost Stars, which covers an enormous span of time as well.
Yes, it
So
does.
that's what I really enjoyed about it, I guess.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like we definitely follow this character right from she like you start chapter one and she is a Padawan and they're out on this mission with her master Sember Vey, who we've never heard before. So that's a new character. Um, and she has a terrible relationship with her master, and I guess they just, not like terrible, but they don't have any kind of connection, they don't have any similarities really. They don't have any good like bonding hangout moments, anything like that, which is kind of sad because if you think about master and apprentices that we already know, they're kind of like it's almost like father and son, brother and brother. You know what I mean? Like one a couple relationship that I can think of where it's like it's almost like her mother that is her master, but but it's like her master, right? But this not so much
Yeah.
with this character, and it does affect her a lot, and we do find out why this all happens. But even then, when we find her as a Padawan, she's telling us stories or remembering stories of when she was an initiate. So we really know her all the way from like being a baby with this character. And Delilah makes us really like this character until you realize like, oh, maybe she is good. Oh, no, she's not good. Right? It's like you want to believe that she's good because you like this character and you know so much of what she's thinking. But she's very she has issues. To say the least. Um, but this book shows her it shows her going through like knighthood. You go through Order 66, and you know we've seen Order 66 like 100 different ways now, but I still enjoy them. I don't I don't know. I'm sure some people are getting sick of it. And then of course, yes, it shows her being how she becomes an inquisitor, and this book also picks up the ending, which is the epilogue, which goes hand in hand with the Darth Vader Lord of the Sith comics. So the ending is the same as the comic on how her life kind of where she finishes, where her story ends, which I was not sure they were going to do. I thought they were going to. Did you think that they were going to retcon it and change the ending, or did you think they were going to stay with
I
the
didn't.
comic?
I had no idea that she popped up in a comic. I haven't read it, so and I'm kind of glad
Oh,
I hadn't read the comic, and so I didn't know where it was going to go. But obviously, there's a lot of twists and turns along the way for if you have read the comic. I'm guessing. So yeah,
yes. Well, I read the comic a few weeks ago when we did our it was like an Inquisitor episode on the main show. So I did all these notes on all of the Inquisitors and like where they all came from, what their original names were, everything I could think of, which I might actually do another solo show just to get into it even more with the Inquisitors, because I actually really like the Inquisitors. But all I had was 13th sister, this is her name, and like one sentence of her whole life. Because that's all we've had before. She's only ever been in
mm,
like two pages or something, like more than two, but only like a few here and there. She's never had like a
mm,
main storyline really, and you never really know where she's from. I watched an interview with Delilah Dawson, and she said that um, Disney kind of approached her with the character and was like, this is the character, and we need her to end here. You can fill in all of this info. Um, so Delilah fell in love with this character as she wrote her, but she didn't get to choose her. So I guess that's kind of how it works with
yeah,
authors and Disney and stuff, right? Like we have a plan. You just need to do the hard work. um, well, before we dig into spoilers, because I really want to, um, what was your score on this book? What would you give it? Now that we've had a month to think about it.
yeah, yeah. My score has remained the same from when we initially tried to talk about this, and it's 5 out of 5. I absolutely love it, and it's for sure in my top 10 canon books, so, which I'm
Yeah.
currently working on.
Awesome. It's always updating, right?
Yeah,
Well, my score on this book is also going to be a 5 out of 5. I don't do that. Well, I want to say I don't give fives out lightly, but I don't know. This book, I really liked it. I was listening to it in the car. I was reading it. Um, I was listening to it on my AirPods when I was trimming blackberry bushes at work. And that can be just very mind numbing, holy. Um, but I would be listening to Iscat tearing someone apart, and then I'm like tearing apart this prickle bush, like, yeah! It was good. So I keep every time I'll think of a certain part of the book, I think of that chunk of prickle bush fence that I was standing at while I was reading that part. I don't know why. Anyways, so yeah, so we both gave it a 5 out of 5. I recommend this book to anybody who likes the Clone Wars era stuff, because it does dig into that era, that area, that part of the war. It does have a lot of stuff going on in the temple as well. So that's pretty cool. And there's some tie-ins to the Kenobi series too, and Jedi Fallen Order, and probably Survivor. I haven't played Survivor yet. But this book has a lot of tie-ins. So if you guys haven't read the book yet, you really should, because it sucks you in, and before you know it, it will be over. And then you won't know what to do with your life anymore because you're not reading anymore. Well, I guess you can move on to the next book in your pile. So from here on, I guess we're going to go spoilers. Spoiler warning from now on, guys. Okay, I'm going to pause it.
Yeah, so what did I like about this? Well, Iskat is the main thing. Just I love the character. She always, throughout the book, she always feels like an outsider. You know, she sees herself that way. And then I think she thinks when she joins the Inquisitors that she'll feel this is her place now, but actually she still feels like an outsider.
Yeah.
And, you know, she starts off really kind of like mysterious and everything because she knows nothing of her past. She doesn't even know what species she is.
Yeah, so there's that
And, you
mystery.
know, and you get drip fed little details, like you were saying earlier about, you know, when she's remembering being a youngling and stuff like that, and then how there was an accident kind of thing when she was training, and another youngling student gets injured and stuff, and she feels like everybody blames her for it, and that they've never forgotten that. Yeah, and then obviously she gets called to Geonosis with Semba because they're just off in the galaxy doing their thing. They're very different characters, like you said. She always kind of longs after action and fighting and stuff, whereas Semba is more studious and kind of goes around collecting Force artifacts and things like that.
Yeah.
And then they get called to Geonosis and everything kind of kicks off. um, Obviously, Semba passes away during that. So it's a real kind of big moment for Iskat because although their relationship is strained, she definitely still cares for Semba and kind of wants her
Yeah.
approval and stuff. And then obviously as Semba is passing away, she kind of not hallucinating, but what's the
Her
word?
life flashed before her eyes.
Feverishly kind of like talking about stuff like, you know, about I failed your mother or something like that. And so that
Yeah.
sets her off kind of being wondering if Semba knew her mother and things like that, or so yeah, all of her background and everything, and as you kind of discover it as you go on, is really interesting. Yeah, I think that's the main thing that I would say really that I liked about it is Iskat. It's just because it's such a deep dive on her character all the way through, and you see
Yeah.
things from her perspective. Yeah. As for what I didn't like, I can't think. There's not a great deal, but as I was reading, it felt like I was just always wondering, okay, when are we actually going to get to the point of when she becomes of Order 66 and becoming an Inquisitor? Because it spends at least 2/3, 3/4 of the book, maybe 2/3 probably,
Yeah.
of her as a Jedi during the Clone Wars. So I think that's the only criticism I can come up with is maybe I would have not necessarily have that happen earlier, but have a bit more time with her as an Inquisitor, maybe. That's the only thing I
Yeah.
can think of that I didn't, you know. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah. Well, her time as an inquisitor is just like her fighting with the other Inquisitors, which kind of suck. Like doesn't like it doesn't suck, but it sucks for her. Like does that make sense? Um, but yeah, like she should have been doing more. I feel like we could have had more stuff of her, yeah, more experiences of her being an Inquisitor out and doing stuff and not just fighting and bickering with the other Inquisitors, but that's who they are. Um, I I really liked all the connections and stuff too. Like I read the Brotherhood book uh, up there somewhere, um, and Iskat and Anakin actually get knighted in the same knighting ceremony. And in the Brotherhood book, which I read like last year or months ago, and it's kind of like an impromptu, like really quick knighting. So it's like here's a group
Yeah.
of Jedi Padawans that we're going to bundle together, and we're all going to have the knighting right at the same time. And
Yeah.
it, like even yeah, like even Anakin feels like he's getting ripped off because the knighting is usually like a ceremony for just one single Jedi Knight, and it's like supposed to be beautiful, and they've worked their whole lives to get this, and now they're all getting this like, you know, quick like rush through of it. And Iskat is in that same group with Anakin, and Obi-Wan's kind of giving the speech too, and they're expecting the Chancellor to come and do another speech for them all for being knighted, but he ends up not showing up. And Mace Windu is kind of talking to Obi-Wan, like, I'm not really sure what's going on. Like, where is he? And then they get a hologram or a holo message from the Chancellor,
Yeah.
and he says, Cato Neimoidia has been bombed, and we need everybody's help, like, right now. So it's like, oh,
Hmm.
even though your knighting is already shortened and like everything, we're cutting it in half again because we got other stuff to do. The war has started. So Obi-Wan kind of just
Yeah.
goes, okay, you're all knights. And then they all start. And Iskat has the
And
same
that's what kind of
feelings.
kicks off the Brotherhood book, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, and that's where
Which
the
is the
Brotherhood book
bombing of
goes.
Clayton and Avoidia. Yeah.
Yeah, with my Mike Chen wrote that book. It's actually really good too. It's all about
Hmm.
Obi-Wan and Anakin. But I like
Yeah.
that connection there. Um, I loved the Geonosis connection. I'm sure you guys listening were like, "Oh my god!" when it happened, because I was for sure. And it was a different side of the battle that we haven't seen before. Like it's first of all, we're getting shown the daily routines of a Jedi and her Padawan just before the Clone Wars. They're out, they're doing their own thing. The temple is busy with Padawans and masters. Everyone's kind of busy doing their own thing. And then all of a sudden, the Clone Wars start happening, and you see the temple starts getting more and more empty. And but I guess they're just called into Geonosis, like something's happening. We need you all right now. Obi-Wan and Anakin and a senator are in trouble. So a ton of Jedi come from all over the galaxy. They meet here with Mace Windu, and they're walking slowly through all the caverns. And this is the side of it that we didn't see before. And Iskat's like, "Oh, this sand, like it just gets everywhere." And it's like that's a Attack of the
Yeah.
Clones reference, which I love. So another connection there between Anakin. And she's just walking, and she's like, she can taste the dirt, the sand in her mouth, the red sand. She's like kicking it with her boots, and like the smell of the air is like, it's so cool. I love seeing stuff from a different point of view.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, yeah, which was so cool. And you're right. There wasn't really a whole lot that I could say that I didn't like about the book.
Hmm.
I'm just trying to think, like, I don't know, I guess I want to say how quickly she turned to the dark side, but even then, I didn't not like that. You know,
Yeah.
you're just like, yes, feel that dance of
Yeah.
hate. You're like cheering her on.
Yeah. It's like they kind of, I know we're kind of skipping ahead here, but like it's basically said that every other Inquisitor was kind of captured and tortured into becoming an Inquisitor. Although
Yeah,
they would probably had that inclination maybe to go to the dark side anyway. But she's just like,
yeah,
nope, yep, I'm in.
Sign me
she
up.
needs no torturing. She's just like, yep, I'm in. That's fine. So
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
she
and
kind
I
of
get
doesn't get tortured into it, but then being an Inquisitor is a whole lot of fighting each other, and yeah,
yeah. It doesn't sound like a place that I want to be.
no,
Like they're
it's not
all
a
there
fun
because
time.
no, like they're all there because they're all evil and they're all brainwashed. It's kind of like going back to Jedi Fallen Order, how we get to the like to Nur and they have all of the people in the frozen, what is it? It looks like amber, but that's like Jurassic Park. But
Hmm.
they have everyone like captured and they're like studying the Force. Some of the Jedi that they caught, like that youngling, and they're literally brainwashing them, like they're torturing them, and they're like I don't know, I can't even imagine, but electrocuting them, whatever, until they accept being an Inquisitor. All of them. So 11 of them or whatever. I don't know. The Grand Inquisitor probably did too. I'm not sure. But she would be 13. Tuolin would be 14? I don't know. Tuolin never got a number.
Something like that. Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
who is Tuolin now that
yeah.
I'm talking about him? We haven't even brought him up at all.
Yeah, Tuolin's another. He was a Padawan at the same time as her. He's knighted in the same ceremony as her and Anakin, and
Yeah.
then goes on to become a Jedi Knight through the Clone Wars. And he's somebody that she always has a kind of a crush on, kind of
Yeah.
wants to be his friend, but isn't, kind of considers him a friend, but it's not exactly. You get the feeling that maybe it's one sided, or more on her side than his side, at least. Um, yeah. So and then he also ends up becoming an Inquisitor as well, and I believe he's in
Yeah.
that comic like you mentioned before.
He
Um,
is.
so
Yes.
he's kind of interesting. He kind of becomes more interesting once they're both Inquisitors. Like earlier on in the book, he's kind of there, and he's almost like she kind of thinks he's the kind of Jedi Knight she should be, because like we said, she always feels like an outsider. She feels like maybe she's not good enough, or that the Jedi don't trust her.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, don't fully trust her. And that's the thing that you get all the way through is, of course, that you gradually come to realise through the book is that she's an unreliable narrator. You're seeing everything from her point of view, but then you get little things of what other people say, and it's how what was it? What got here? She believes, like we were saying, that the relationship between her and Semba was kind of strained, and that Semba didn't really care about her or want her as a Padawan. But we're
Yeah.
told multiple times by different Jedi throughout the book how much Semba believed in her to be a Jedi,
Yeah.
and that she had great potential, and actually she cared a lot. And we find out later that one of the reasons for that is because she was a friend of Iskat's mother, Feyre, who was also a Jedi,
Yes.
or who was a Padawan at the same time as Semba, but then she kind of fails the trials, kind of thing. Um,
Yeah.
and then one of the first main missions in the Clone Wars, which she goes on with Tualon and another Jedi whose name escapes me at this moment in time, kind of goes wrong. They end up the other Jedi who's leading the mission dies, which is she's kind of as they're climbing these rock faces and stuff, and there's these creatures
Yeah.
there, and she doesn't think to warn the other Jedi, and then he gets like bitten to death by poisonous birds or something, and
Yeah.
she kind of watches him fall, and everyone's like, "Why couldn't you catch him?" And she was like, "There wasn't time." Maybe there was,
Yeah, maybe.
and but anyway,
Yeah.
but they carry on with the mission to try and get it done, and so she's off, and I can't remember what she's trying to do exactly, but they're trying to turn off the security system or something like that, and it goes wrong. There's battle droids and stuff like that, and she's just like, I can't do it the way I'm supposed to, so I'm just gonna like blow it up, basically.
Yeah.
And it turns out that bomb killed a bunch of civilians who were hiding underground, I believe.
Yeah, they were like
But
employed
she
or
was like, "Well,
something.
I had no idea about that. It's not my fault." and when the other Jedi had died, she received his mission instructions. And when she's about to read that, she kind of skims it because she also notices there's another one that's a report about her that he's been writing.
Yeah.
So if she hadn't been distracted by that, if she paid attention properly and read the mission thing, she would have known that there were civilians there, and
Yeah.
then she probably wouldn't have blown it up. But she can't see it from anybody else's point of view. She's like, I'm being blamed really unfairly for this, and then she kind of
Yeah.
gets grounded at the temple for a long time, doesn't she?
Yeah.
And
Two
there's other
years.
instances of that as well. Yeah,
Yeah, she's very quick
yeah.
to
2 years,
throw
she's
the
kind of kicking her
blame.
heels and getting frustrated, and that all adds
Yeah.
into her sense of they don't trust her, and it's like, well, they don't trust you for a reason because
Yeah,
you don't
right.
pay attention properly or things like
Yeah,
that.
you're
And
super powerful. Yeah.
yeah, and there's other characters that like she thinks that were Padawans at the same time as her that she feels were that judged her because of the accident and didn't trust her and didn't like her. And you
Hmm.
kind of find out later when there's a confrontation once she's an inquisitor, she's saying these things, and the other person's just like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, like,
And
what are
it's
you even
entirely been in
talking
her
about?
head.
Let's escape together
Yeah,
right now. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and she blames the Jedi for not having helped her enough. When well, there's some blame there, but there's also the fact of she never truly opened up and said what was on her mind or anything like that. And that's a kind of a classic thing of like mental health and depression is
Yes.
you keep it inside, you don't want to talk about it because you're ashamed or embarrassed, or you don't think
Hmm.
anybody else is going to understand. So that's kind of a classic thing. Probably one of the biggest kind of signifiers for me that she's a deeply troubled person.
She's got issues. Yeah.
She's got
Yeah.
issues. She's
And
very much got issues.
yeah, and sounds like it runs in the family. So Iskat's mother was Feyre was also given to the Jedi Temple when she was young. She had attuned to the Force just as Iskat does, but she was never happy, never satisfied in the temple. So
Mm.
I guess she actually her mother failed the
The
trials to become a
trials, yeah.
Jedi, which they do mention in this book that people do fail the trials after
Hmm.
being a Padawan. You can fail them, and
Yeah.
then
And
they'll
we actually
offer you
find
a
out what happens to them.
yeah, and
Because
then yeah, exactly. So not every Jedi passes the trials, and we saw that a couple people in the temple at this time were offered jobs in the temple. So another character, Hazu, he
yeah,
also did.
yeah.
He also did the trials, failed them, and then they said, "Okay, well, you can still work as a droid mechanic in the temple." Um, but pretty much more or less to let your force abilities fade because you
Mm.
failed. It's like, oh my god. So by the time we meet him, his abilities have all failed. Like they have all faded. He doesn't really have an attune to the force as much as most Jedi would anymore. Um,
Mm.
so her mother went back to her planet, which Iskat does find Pakori. So they're Pakorians, the red skin, long fingered, long creepy fingered people. Um, so she goes back and finds her people, and she's trying to be happy. And then she has Iskat, and then Iskat starts showing the Force very young, like moving cups and stuff. And then she gets called for the Jedi to come and get her as well. And her mother and all of her family just kind of hope that she can be a better Jedi than her
Mm.
mother. Like, I
Yeah.
hope
And
she
it's
can
interesting
follow my
that
dream. They let her
despite the
take.
fact that she failed the trials and wasn't happy in the Jedi, she really wanted her daughter to be part of the Jedi Order still.
Yes, but she
Um,
didn't find that out until like it was way too late. Until this cat was
yeah.
like evil, pretty much. And then I guess her mother did end up taking her own life at the end, which Delilah does say at the beginning of the book that there is somebody who commits suicide in this book, which is not something we see in Star Wars. Um, and she says that she can connect to this character because of her life experiences as well. So the story note by the author at the very beginning of the book is very heart-wrenching, and it sucks you in
Mm.
right away. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
so
For a long time, I was worried that that was going to be Iskat that the suicide
oh
was referring to, you know?
yeah, that's what
Because
I
it's
thought
really not
too.
until towards the end when she's an Inquisitor that we find out that it's her mother that,
There's her
dies.
mother. Yeah, you
Yeah,
just like assume that it's this cat right away. I
yeah,
don't know. But
yeah. But it's interesting as well. It's like, because although she chose to leave, not to take up a role at the temple and leave and go back to our home planet, she still wasn't without support because the temple allowed Semba to go visit her, it said.
yeah,
And so Semba's trying to help her, and then she kind of has her child, and then she dies. Yeah.
yeah, and that's when
So
Sember kind of promises to help her along as well.
yeah, yeah. So
So
yeah.
so it's not like a true connection in the force like a master and apprentice should. It's more of like a
Mm,
commitment choice. So that might be
yeah.
where they're lacking that connection there. That
Mm.
Iskat wants so bad this friendly relationship with her master, which she doesn't have. So, one thing I really liked about this book is that it gives insight into how some of the Inquisitors survived Order 66. So, the Emperor has this massive plan that he's going to have all of his clone troopers turn on the Jedi once they're all spread out across the galaxy. They're spread very thin, and then they're going to take them all out just as they're all out into the farthest reaches of the galaxy. But we know that some of our Jedi friends have survived this and they're now Inquisitors. So we've never really known how that happened before. I guess we could always guess, like they left the Order, like the Grand Inquisitor lost faith in the Jedi, and he left from being a Temple guard. Um, um, as we learn in Jedi Fallen Order and probably Survivor, some of those Inquisitors that we meet in that game were also Jedi before. And we learn that there are spies in the Jedi Temple, which is so cool. We never thought of that before. So, Iskat has this friend that just happens to always pop up when she needs to talk to somebody. And who was that?
The aforementioned Hizo.
He's so
Yes, the droid mechanic. Yeah.
yes.
They
So
always
he's
happen to meet in this little walled garden, and he kind of
yeah,
always encourages her doubts, kind of thing, or to think differently.
yeah.
But it seems like um, she has a brief meeting with Palpatine earlier in the book,
Oh yeah, she
uh,
does. Yeah,
where Mace Windu was when she's. I think this is after the failed mission in the beginning of the Clone Wars, and then she's feeling salty about that, and but anyway, she gets sent. I think it's Mace Windu or Yoda. Somebody sent her to go meet the Chancellor at the pad and then escort him into the temple where he's going to have a meeting with the Jedi. And so, for a very short period of time, probably like a minute or so, she's with Palpatine and they're talking and
hmm
stuff. And then right after that, Hizo shows up. So it's like
yeah.
from such a short conversation with Palpatine, it
You
really
can
seems like
feel
he's
it.
gone, right, there's something in this one. I'm
Yeah,
going to
I
get
can
one of
feel
my
the
spies in
darkness
a
on this
temple
one. Yeah,
to find out more about her, prod her in to
hmm
be more dissatisfied and that kind of stuff. So you imagine that's happening with various other ones. They're identifying ones that they think could be broken and turned to
yeah,
be inquisitors later on.
yeah.
So
So
it's
there
not
was
something he
probably
came up with later. He was already thinking about that as well, as if he didn't
yeah,
have
which is
enough
cool.
plans.
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh, but that is smart, right? Like
Mm.
they followed his rule when they asked her right out, like, do you like on the little pad, like, are you want to come with us and you can have all the secrets that you ever wanted and all the power and freedom, and she's like, Okay, sure. Kill my crush that I've
Yeah,
had for 12 years that's beside me here. Like, yep, go for it. Like,
yeah.
okay. And Tuolin, because they were together when that happened, starts getting fired at, and she just takes off on the ship with them, and they leave him in the forest. So obviously he survives, or they take him out and then they bring him
Mm.
back. I know they have a massive medical unit for the Inquisitors because
Yep.
they are constantly
They
trying to
are
kill each
always
other.
attacking each other. Yes. She ends up
Savages
in the med base so many times.
from her fellow Inquisitors, or
Yeah.
even Darth Vader, because he's just so brutal with
Yep.
all of them. Oh my
Yep.
gosh.
Seems like a part of your training at some point is you will have to fight Darth Vader and he will chop part of you off.
Yeah. It's just a matter of
Essentially.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
nobody beats
Yeah.
Vader. And
Yeah.
even Iskat, she fights Vader in the pit. I think they call it the pit.
Hmm.
And the other Inquisitors are watching because they're like, like, let's see this. Like, and she actually puts up a pretty good fight, and she thinks to herself, I can't just go at him like lightsaber blazing. I just got this Inquisitor saber. I don't even know how to use it yet, pretty much. And she's like, I can't just go right at him. So she tries to distract him. I think she throws something at him, and she uses the Force to pull the plugs out of the back of his helmet when
Mm.
she's fighting him. So he can't breathe.
Yeah.
So he's like,
Yeah.
so he
Yeah.
leaves the room, and she starts looking around like, I just
Like,
won.
I did
I
it.
won more. Yeah, I did it. I did it. And all of a sudden, from a different room, Vader has already left. He throws her with the Force against the wall so hard that it like shatters her body. And she's
Mm.
just kind of like, at least I lived. And she's like crumbles down to the ground.
Yeah.
Um, and she
And the
goes to
thing
the
is,
med
with
bay.
all these encounters, like with Vader and with the other,
The third sister.
the other Inquisitors, yeah, like what was it, the Seventh Sister in
Oh, is
particular,
it?
is a really bad. You know, the one played by Sarah Michelle Gellar in Rebels,
In
I
Rebels.
think it
Yeah.
is. Yeah, she kind of wins against her, and then as
Yeah.
she's leaving, the Seventh Sister has her little droids go and like attack her, and that, and she ends up in the med bay. But we find out all these times that basically there's a massive med bay. They can get you better, but
Yeah.
the only way you're going to get that is if you get yourself there. So no matter
Yes.
how almost dead you are, you've got to pull a Darth Maul
And drag
and keep
yourself
yourself
with
alive with
it.
hate or whatever, and drag yourself there to get
Yeah.
medical treatment. Nobody else is going to take you there.
Yeah, like that one scene. Iskat, the Precorian in her, has two hearts. So one
Yeah,
day she's sleeping, and I think she just wakes up to being completely shocked by the Seventh
mm,
Sister's floating droids. And they shock her so bad that it stops one of her hearts. So she's paralyzed on one side, and something else happened. I think they beat
yeah.
her or whatever. And she drags
Luckily for
herself
her,
with
she
one.
has two.
Yeah, luckily she has
Two
two
hearts.
hearts. So she half paralyzed, drags herself down the hallway to the med bay, and somehow survives. So,
Yeah,
and that's only a couple of times of her going to the med bay. So it's kind of sad.
yeah,
And then as she's like crumbled, laying there, she's like, maybe this isn't the place I was meant to be either. Like,
yeah.
no. Yeah, they're a bunch of savages in that temple. But Tuolin doesn't come in until like later. So I don't know
Mm,
if he was like tortured for extra long or what, because he
yeah.
was supposed to be like the perfect Jedi. He followed all the rules, goody two shoes, and um, but in the end, yeah, they turned him into an Inquisitor, and that might have been because he was so doubtful of himself. He's always
Mm,
questioning if he's doing the right thing, so maybe that was where he was susceptible to it.
yeah.
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 Um yeah, so what did we notice about the Jedi in this time era? The Clone Wars.
Yeah. Well, as we said, Iskat blames them for a lot of things.
Yes.
And she, yeah, when they come and get her, they basically say the Jedi have committed treason against the Chancellor, and she's like, "Oh yeah, they must have then."
Yeah, makes sense.
Um, she believes it straight away, just because she doesn't want to like them, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, well something that's obviously been talked about a lot before with in like the Clone Wars, Revenge of the Sith, and us, are the Jedi at fault? And um, are the Jedi perfect? No. Should we expect them to be? No, because they're all people too with their own flaws.
Mhm. Yeah.
But as a body, as the Jedi, this book really makes it obvious, like you were saying earlier, just how thinly stretched the Jedi are during the
Yeah.
Clone Wars. And that's all down to Palpatine engineering this war so that they're scattered everywhere. And because they're scattered everywhere,
Yeah.
when Sember dies, it's like the Clone Wars kicks off. They really
Yes.
also, it was surprised me just how many Jedi they said died at Geonosis. I can't remember the number, but it was
Yes.
a lot.
It
It
was
was like
like
100 or
300 or
something.
something like
I don't
that.
know, quite a lot anyway. Yeah. So
Yeah.
they said Iskat straight away says she noticed how much quieter the temple is. And then
Hmm.
the Clone Wars is kicking off, so Jedi are getting sent all over the place. So they're stretched really thin. So it's like with her like grief for Semba and things like that, and the
Hmm.
troubles she goes through when missions go wrong and things like that. Is the support there? No, but is that a Jedi's fault? Maybe not, because it's part of
Yeah.
Palpatine's plan to have them stretched in. So
And they were
it's
struggling.
logistically impossible, really, to give her the support that she needs. Um,
Yeah. Same with Anakin.
yeah,
The same thing is going on with her. The same thing's going on with Anakin. They
yeah,
probably could have benefited from the same. Like they both would have benefited from having Qui-Gon as their
yeah.
masters. But
And I can't remember which Jedi is, but there's one point where she's, in the council chambers being given a mission or gone to ask something or report a mission. And the Jedi Master that's there, I can't remember which one it was now. She's just like, he seemed really like, initially she thinks he doesn't care or, but it becomes evident that he's just, he's wiped out. He's
it was
tired.
Mace
He's
Windu.
just like drained. Was it Mace Windu? It was Mace
Yeah,
Windu.
he's just so
Yeah,
busy.
just like
Like,
so busy with there's so much going on with this war that it's
yeah,
impossible for them to provide. And like we said, and Iskat's part, the support is stretched thin and maybe not there the way it should be. Like if there was all the Jedi around like normal, somebody would have noticed something. Somebody would have had more time to talk to her. But at the same time, she didn't flag up that I'm feeling all these things. I'm
yeah.
struggling. So
The
maybe
Sith
if she
text
had,
is still
somebody would
calling
have.
to me.
But yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
but
And it's kind of it's a quote that I've loved ever since I heard it from Ahsoka last week, the second episode of Ahsoka, and that sometimes even the right reasons have the wrong consequences.
yes,
And that kind
that
of
was.
sums that up. It sums up a lot of things in Star Wars for me. So it's like the failings of the Jedi. It's like none of it's on purpose. Nobody has bad intentions,
Yeah.
and they're being manipulated by somebody that they have no idea about in Palpatine. So
Well, for sure. Well, I mean,
yeah,
like the Clone Wars is such a complicated time because up until up until the Battle of Geonosis, all of the Jedi are peacekeepers. You know, they're just the protectors, and they're keeping the peace, and they're collecting artifacts, and they're training, and they're peaceful, and they're meditating, and all of a sudden the Clone Wars starts. It's like, you're a general. You're going to be killing people every day now. Like, oh, okay. Like, it's just such a huge change. And yes, this was right when she lost her master, so Iskat didn't really have a whole lot of advice to go off of. She was talking to other masters. She started, she got two lightsabers. So she found her mother's lightsaber in
mm.
Sember Bay's stuff after she passed away. And she had this connection to the lightsaber. It's got a bigger hilt for her big long fingers. So creepy fingers. I can't get over it. Look them up in the comic. They're creepy. Um, so she learns to fight with two lightsabers, and she gets help from Pong Krell, who is one of the Jedi Masters in the Clone Wars. He's one that we end up not liking very much because he doesn't respect the clones. But
Yeah,
there's that one. She gets help from Ahsoka, because Ahsoka has dual lightsabers, And she also speaks with Kelleran Beck, which is super
Hmm.
cool. Kelleran is the one who
Yeah,
saved
he's in it
Grogu from
several
the temple.
times, isn't he? Yeah.
Yes, he is, because he likes to train the younglings. That's his kind of thing, and Iscat has to train younglings for 2 years as like punishment after her like
Mm.
first uh, mission gone wrong, even though it wasn't really her
Yeah.
fault. Really, like I don't know.
Yeah.
I would have done the same thing. I probably would have just watched him fall and been like, "Oh, you didn't see those poisonous birds? Because we all did." Like, as he's like crumbled on the ground, and even the clone said, "Like, well, it looked like he was dead when he hit the ground." But I think what it was with that situation, there was flowers on the planet, and I have them written down. They're called coma blooms, and they're very pretty flower. I think she sees them on the hill. The birds have been eating them, and they like are nesting in them or something. So their beaks have the poison on them, and it's coma stuff. So coma bloom, so which actually turns your body into like a coma state, and then it kills you. So he very well could have been dead when he hit the ground, but it was too late for him right off the bat.
Yeah.
He kind of deserved it. That Jedi Knight was very cocky, like, "Hey, we're both Jedi Knights, but I'm going to take you under my wing. And I'm going to report back to Mace Windu about you without you knowing." It's like, and you don't need to know that there's people underneath here too. Like, he was to blame just as much for that mission gone wrong. But I mean, he died, so don't speak ill of the dead. But
Yeah.
what were some of the Easter eggs that we haven't already mentioned that you noticed?
Yeah, like you said, there's connections all over the place
So
because of the
many.
time period this is set in. Because it's during the Clone Wars, she spends most of her time at the temple, so it makes sense. You get all of these Jedi come through. Obviously, Mace Windu and Yoda are pretty sizable parts in it.
Yes.
Really, she encounters those guys a lot. Jocasta Nu in the archives,
Yep.
like you said,
Yep.
Pong Krell, Ahsoka. Ethkoth is another one that shows up. I think
Oh
he's a
yeah.
Sabrak or something. Um, and Keller and Beck, yeah. Um, another connection that's kind of goes back to Delilah Dawson writing the Black Spire Outpost book was that
Yes.
there's an Anzellan slicer that she gets sent to go find called Gintho, who
Yes.
incidentally, he sounds awesome because he rides around not dissimilar to Baby Yoda in IG-88.
Yeah.
Um, like he rides around in a B1 battle droid that just has its torso missing and has a glass ball, and he's in the glass ball controlling it, kind of thing. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And
But
Ginto
anyway,
ends up
he
turning out to be a
mentions
girl
oh
with the
well,
guy voice.
Gintho turns out to have he mentions having worked um, for Doc Onda on Batuu and as well
Yes.
as in the droid depot on Batuu. So that's a cool connection also because of obviously Delilah Dawson having written the Black Spire book. And then
Yeah.
just so many Inquisitors.
Yeah. And an Anzellan
Just
is a
so many
Babu
of them.
freak, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Zelen is a Babu Frick. Yeah.
Yeah, there's lots of connections to the Black Spire books
Mm.
as well, and which
I'm
is
sure
pretty
there's
cool.
more that we haven't spotted, but
Oh,
just
there's
because
no
it's
way.
so dense with like the Clone Wars and the fall of the Jedi and the start of the Empire and everything like that.
There's
Yeah,
so much. There's
yeah,
so much. So many connections, and sometimes I don't like there being so many connections because it's like
yeah,
every person is this pilot that we know of or whatever. But no, I still really liked it.
yeah. They all
Those,
kind of made sense and didn't feel like gratuitous kind of thing. It's like, well, she wants to learn how to wield two lightsabers. We know who two people that wield multiple lightsabers are, and that's obviously Ahsoka and Bon Krell, like you said. So it
yeah,
all
which
kind
is
of made
so
sense. I
cool.
felt like
Yeah,
none of
and
them felt
Anakin
like they shouldn't
Skywalker
be
gets
there.
mentioned. Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
exactly. And these are characters that we know of, and they're like, and she even says like they're the more known like Jedi as well. So like
Yeah,
some
yeah,
you've heard
yeah,
of, some just aren't. It's kind of like with
yeah,
school, right? There's always some kids that you hear about a lot. Um,
yeah.
well,
Like Anakin, because like she says, like she's essentially the same generation as Anakin, and like we said, they get knighted at the same time. But he's like the star pupil that everybody talks about, kind of thing, or like everyone, all the other Padawans think he's really cool and like a badass and stuff. So
Yeah, I mean, he is the chosen one, so that rumor would
yeah,
probably go around pretty quickly.
yeah,
Um, well, what were some that I spotted? Let me look at my notes here. I've got the planet Frong is mentioned, and that is a planet that appears in the Aftermath series that you're reading now.
interesting.
I have to read those. I haven't read them yet. Um, and then there's like something about one of the other Aftermath series books is mentioned as well, with like the bug paste that they have to eat on one of their missions or something like that. So that was kind of cool how
Yeah,
it's like connecting to those books as well. Like you see Purge Troopers in this. We see a lot of Purge Troopers in like the comics and the Jedi Fallen Order books. Iskat flies the Scythe ship to Barlath to pick up something with the Grand Inquisitor as like a test. And she's flying. The Scythe is actually the ship that we see the Inquisitors land in Kenobi when they land in Tatooine. So
yeah,
that's kind of cool. So it's like she flew that ship, but she's not on that mission, which was kind of cool. Yeah, I loved seeing Keller and Beck. They mentioned Grievous and Dooku in this book.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
the
Yeah,
planet,
because she's all kind of gun
yeah,
ho. She wants to be the one to bring in Grievous
yeah.
at
She's like,
one
oh,
point. I
it'll be
think.
me. Like we're flying out to
I
the
think
middle of
that's
nowhere.
yeah. That's at the very end of the Clone Wars, isn't it? It's like they're
Yes,
getting sent off to investigate a sighting of Grievous or something like that, and then Order 66 happens. So
yes. They probably all
yeah,
got sent out on the same exact mission to different
yeah,
places, right? um, and there's the planet Thule that they go to. The planet that she has this like deep connection to. She's never felt so alive. In the Legends books, this is a Sith planet. So this is also where they find like the Sith temple and stuff too. So she's brought in stuff from Legends. The sand gets everywhere. That was a good connection as well. Barleth is mentioned as well, which is actually a planet from the Dr. Aphra comics. If anybody reads those are really good as well. And then just one more. A Firaxan shark is the type of shark. Um, I guess Iskat has a piece of shark tooth on her lightsaber. And this specific space shark is from the Old Republic, Knights of the Old Republic game. So
okay,
she's got stuff coming in from Legends. She's got stuff from Old Republic. She's got stuff from Batu, which is currently
yeah.
sequel era. So this book has everything in it. I really, really liked this book. I still give it a 5 out of 5 because. So just to finish us off, we're just gonna kind of quickly go over the ending, which is the same as the Darth Vader Lord of the Sith comics. Of I guess it does come to the same ending. So you said you haven't read this comic, no?
No, no, I have not.
Yeah. Okay, so I read it a few I read it a few weeks ago. And you can't find this comic anymore. Like maybe you can. I couldn't find it. Um, so I bought it off of Marvel Comics, just the app on my phone, and I was able to just flip through the comic. And it pretty much is it's the epilogue of this book. And you guys have all read it because you're still listening to us, or maybe you won't. But I was kind of hoping that it wouldn't retcon that comic, which it didn't. And it's the epilogue, so it's years later. They've been an Inquisitor for a while. Iskat and Tuolin are, I guess they're together, finally.
Kind
They're
of
kind of,
involved. Yeah,
yes. So I don't know how far
yeah,
into that they are, but
yeah.
it's not like they're saying, I love
But
you,
they
I
have
know, or
to
anything.
keep it a secret because they both
Yes.
know perfectly well that if it got found out, the other Inquisitors would turn on them, or Vader, obviously.
Yeah. So apparently they don't even smile at each other.
Yeah.
So they don't even smile at each other. It's been years. And I guess after they kill Jedi or Force sensitive beings, they like to take like drinks or shots or whatever of the local intoxin.
Yeah.
So, and they're drinking and they're like, oh, this is horrible. Like, why did we decide to do this anymore? And it was like, and they're just kind of sharing a moment. And Vader just walks up and he just goes to strike Iskat with his lightsaber. Like, they're just sitting there having a drink and he just walks up like,
Yeah.
and Tuwalin throws out his lightsaber, his big Inquisitor lightsaber, and protects Iskat from being killed. And she's like, why would you do that? Like, he knows now. And they just take off running.
Yeah.
And Tuwalin's like, well, now we can be free. Like, we're good. Let's take off. Let's go. And Iskat's like, he's never going to stop following us. Like, we have to kill him. So they take off to the streets of Coruscant, where the Inquisitorius still is. It's on Coruscant still at the end of this book. And they're jumping onto different speeders and they're flying through traffic, and Vader's just following them so easily, jumping from ship to ship and, dodging stuff they're throwing at him. And they're like, man, it's like he's done this before. And we've just watched him do this
yeah.
Yeah,
Attack
like Anakin. Attack of the Clones, yes. Anakin's like literally jumping like, sorry, master, I couldn't find the one I liked, or whatever. So they're like literally playing in his playground, and Tualin's like, throw a speeder at him, darling. Like they're just trying to escape, and they don't get away from him. He catches up to them, and he pretty much more or less gets them to face each other, and then they kill each other with their lightsabers together at the same time. But they're smiling at each other, and Tualin's like, well, now we're free together. And it's like, he's messed up in the head because he's been like brainwashed 100 times, and she's like messed up mentally ill. Like, so Vader finds out their connection.
Yeah.
Whether or not he knew that they had a connection or not, or he just wanted to kill Iskat because she didn't listen on the last mission or something.
Yeah, she was thinking she'd been, like, when they were sharing the moment, there was a couple of things going on that could have like caught his attention, and that's why he attacked her. One was the moment they were sharing, and two, she was thinking something along the lines of that she wanted to kill him at some point and like take his place or something, and he was just like, nope, and goes to attack her, like you said. But yeah, because like I said, I haven't read the comics and stuff, so I wouldn't say I wasn't expecting it. I kind of figured that maybe she's going to die, but I was kind of bummed out when it did happen, because obviously we can't get any more of this character going forward. But she exists all through the Clone Wars and the beginning of the Empire and stuff for a good few years. So there's no reason she can't pop up again in a comic or a book. Have small cameos in places. So
I hope
fingers crossed.
Yeah, I hope so. I love Iskat. She's so crazy. Well, yeah. So that was Inquisitor: Rise of the Red Blade. Hopefully you guys have read the book and agree with us. If there's anything that you wanted to mention that we didn't, or Easter eggs that we missed, or you just want to let us know what you thought of the book, let us know. You can find Johnny on Instagram, Facebook, and you're just the Starbird Files. At Starbird Files.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. On Instagram and Facebook, but there's links from my Instagram to various different places like my blog and stuff like that. So
yeah, and I will post links to your stuff as well. Thank you so much, Johnny, for talking to me this evening about this book. It was a really great book, and I really enjoyed our chat today and our other chats as well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, until next time, guys, for Light and Life. Johnny, what do you got for us?
Ride the storm.
Ride the storm. Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.